The math doesn't even make fucking sense. He's basically saying it's centimeters away from its face, then saying it's 3.6 meters away. That doesn't make any logical sense. And so with that, you basically debunked yourself. The calculation is wrong, as the player needs to be hit multiple times in order to die instead of it being a one hit. So this diminishes the calc altogether. Also, snapping someone's neck isn't small building level. I do not know where the fuck you pulled that information from. Oh my fucking god, this calc is so wrong. You're using the neck snapping energy upscale, which they already proven as it's already false, and the mathematical equations just don't make any sense. Also, they need to snap the heads of the player, not the fucking neck, so get that right, which also diminishes the calc, so congratulations. Also, you have to prove on how the player is 6 foot 4 inches tall, and finally the player can physically run faster than Huggy, and if your calc was right, then Huggy should be able to perception blitz him, which isn't the case whatsoever. First of all, Pianosaurus didn't even blitz them. He just stomped on them. You even said to yourself that they were looking away and running for their lives, which doesn't even count as a blitz. Pianosaurus just more likely just one-shotted them. Also, your math and calculation is wrong, as you're trying to chain scale, which isn't how it works because the calc was inherently wrong. Plus, I need you to prove on how this artwork is canon to the main games, or are they even connected? I asked this because Poppy Playtime is a game, not a comic book series. Actually, I take back my statement because you don't need to, because I just looked at the image on Google that you used for the proof of the city block calc, and apparently you got that image from a fandom site. Imagine you need to use a different version that isn't canon to the actual series just to get a city block calc. That is a level of delusion that got to be studied by the SCP Foundation, because you, my friend, are an anomaly.
I thought about all that could have been if we had never done.
The calculation that you just presented is complete dog shit. What you are presenting goes against all forms of narrative intent on the feat itself, and the calc displays a wide gap in power for what it truly is. When we argue off calculation stronger than the displayed feat, we typically argue off the small gaps in power. For example, in Skibidi Toilet, while the explosions sometimes are typically small in radius, the destructive capability of said explosions can reach higher levels. However, this takes that example and shoots it up by infinity, arguing that a small shock of electricity or electromagnetic wave scales to astronomically higher than it's initially shown to output in. By your own logic, something can destroy a wall, but at the same time, that means he's somehow busting a mountain. That's like what you're trying to present right now.
The things we did if we had realized all our shit.
Okay, you have to prove on how he scales to the Omni-Hand. Just because he created something does not mean he scales to it. By your own logic, humans could be like somehow mountain level because they created the Sarbama. So we're trying to argue off of kinetic energy based on the size of Huggy Wuggy. Yeah, that I don't need to explain on how that's inherently invalid for scaling. First of all, you can't just say it's an official song without actually proving it's an official song. So let me get this straight. You're trying to use the kinetic energy plus the calculations that I already debunked. Just pack it up, bruh. At this rate, I'm starting to doubt if you're even a tier 4 debater, which you proudly proclaimed multiple times. Okay, so we're using kinetic energy, the size plus this equals, your overall scaling, which, I already debunked. Secondly, you're trying to argue that Catnap split Dog Day in half, which you haven't even proved because of one simple factor. We don't even know how he was split in half. All we know that he was cut in half only because of torture. That's it. It was never implied that Catnap was the one that did it. Okay, I have multiple issues with this. Just because your fear does not make you you chain scale off of other characters. The only way for that to be implied is if they fear you because of your own power. What they're fearing him is because how dangerous he is. They all fear him because of how deadly and how bloodlusted he is, not because of his power. What the fuck? By your own logic, since humans are afraid of bugs or grasshoppers, that means grasshoppers are stronger than humans. What the fuck is this argument? You do realize Catnap allowed himself to be killed, right? He didn't necessarily put up a fight. He allowed himself to die to be part of the prototype's bigger plan. What the fuck is it? What are you trying to argue at this rate, bruh? As someone who doesn't even play Poppy Playtime, this is embarrassing.
Can you see us? Can you hear us?
Okay, you have to prove on how they have regeneration. By your own, admission, Huggy Wuggy should have been, regenerating his own arms instead of, having bandages, at the end of chapter 4. What? What the fuck is your, What are you trying to argue at this rate, bro? I'm more confused than anything. Also, you have to fucking prove on why kinetic energy, is applicable for power scaling, because you're using kinetic energy again. Holy fucking shit. You make the Skibbity Toilet fandom look like they're intelligent. I'm sorry, but what the fuck are you trying to present? You're literally trying to present kinetic energy. You're trying to scale them based off their height and size. That is all you're trying to do. You even admit to it. Like, what the fuck? Actually, in conclusion, you're just fucking retarded. Like, that's like the best way I can put it.